Right then, we will go through the presentation now, which is just a few slides, and there will be time for any questions related to the topics at the end of each section. Section. This session is not designed to look at how to complete the application form, but rather to answer any queries you may have. For a step-by-step guide on how to complete your application, please read through our guide for applicants, which can be found on the Apply for Funding section of our website under the guidance heading on the right-hand side of the screen. Also, the link to the pre-recorded webinar, which takes you through the application form step by step, will be provided on our website shortly. Therefore, in this presentation, I'll start by giving you a quick introduction to opportunities available under Key Action 1 in the field of adult education. Then I'll be looking at the PIC process, what is new in the 2018 call application forms, the activities details section in the applications, and the budget. All right, let's take a look at our first slide. Organizations active in adult education can apply for funding to support any of the following mobility activities within a project. Teaching/training assignments, where staff deliver teaching or training in a partner organization abroad. Or structured courses or training events abroad, where staff participate in structured courses or training events to support the professional development of adult education staff. And job shadowing, where staff undertake a job shadowing experience in an adult education organization abroad. The duration of the period abroad must be from 2 days to 2 months, excluding travel time, and the days must be consecutive. Staff must be based in the UK and must undertake their mobility in an eligible organization based in another program country. Please note that UK organizations cannot receive staff from other organizations. The organization sending the participants must apply to the national agency in their own country for funding. So in this case, a UK organization will apply to the national agency to send their staff to another program country or countries only. Now, let's find out which subject would you like to discuss first. Please choose the topic that you have the most questions about.
Okay. So for the first poll of the day, we have the following question here. So which subject do you want to know about the most? So there's one of 4 options available. So we have the PIC process, the application form, what's new in 2018, the application form activities details section, or the budget. So I'll launch the poll for you now. Here we go. So once again, which subject do you want to know about the most? The PIC process, the application form, what's new in 2018, the application form, activities detail section, or the budget. So you can choose one of the 4 options from there. Okay, nearly everybody's voted, so I'll leave it up for a few more seconds. Okay, so I'll now close the poll and share the results with you now. So here we go. So the results are as follows. 25% stated the PIC process, 75% stated the application form, what's new in 2018. So I'll close the poll now, and I'll now hand you back over to Daniela.
Thank you, Stephen. We will go on with a short review of the participant identification code process. Organizations which have participated in Erasmus Plus or other EU-funded programs previously will already have a PIC, but I have included a few slides showing frequently asked questions about the PIC process for those of you who are new. In order to apply for Erasmus Plus funding, the applicant organization must have a participant identification code, or PIC, and must also ensure that its partner organizations have PICs. The participant identification code is a 9-digit participant identification code, which is unique to your organizations and will help you complete the application form. If you haven't got a PIC, you need to complete 2 registration steps. But please double check that your organization definitely doesn't have a PIC. Would recommend you ask colleagues at your organization in case someone else has already created a PIC. Alternatively, you can check whether your organization is already registered through your AU login account by clicking on the Organization tab from the drop-down menu and using the search facility, or online using this link. If your organization already has a PIC, you should use that one and not create a new one, as having 2 or more PICs for the same organization will create problems. If you need to create a PIC, first you will need to create an account on EU Login. This platform of the European Commission was formerly known as ECAS. EU Login is a point for user authentication to a wide range of Commission tools. The registration process is really simple, and you can download a guide on our website, which will talk you through how to do this. Please go to our website page, Registering Your Organization, where you can find the AU Login Guidance document, as well as the Participant Portal User Manual, which includes screenshots and step-by-step guidance to help you. You will then need to obtain a PIC through the Participant Portal, and again, the link to the portal is on our website. After starting the registration process, you will be prompted to provide information about your organization, as well as upload documents related to your organization. These documents are needed to prove the legal status and financial capacity of your organization, and it is essential that the information on these documents matches the information you've input on the portal. So if you already have a PIC, can you just forget about this whole process? Not really. You do not need to create a new PIC. However, you need to log onto the portal and check that the details are up to date and that they match exactly the details in the supporting documents that I will mention in a minute. In particular, you should ensure that the organization address is on the registered address, is the registered address, and is accurate, because the national agency will conduct all checks against this address. The email addresses should be accurate, and the contact telephone numbers for the applicant, and if applicable, the national consortium member should be a UK contact number. Also, please be aware that all of your partners will also need to have obtained a PIC and have uploaded all of the necessary supporting documents on the participant portal before you can submit your application. So a short review of the PIC process. These are the other common questions we receive about the PIC process. First question is, how can I check my institution's PIC? If you aren't sure of your institution's PIC, you can actually search via the participants portal, following the hyperlink on our website and selecting search from the organizations tab. We are also frequently asked about what documents are needed to be uploaded. So as applicant, you need to upload a completed legal entity form and also a financial identification form. Both will have to be accompanied by supporting documents. The legal entity form needs to have as supporting document any document of incorporation or registration which proves the legal status of the organization. The financial identification form needs to have as supporting document a recent bank statement. Your partners also have to have completed the legal entity form and uploaded it to the portal. Also, if you have a VAT number, this should be on the PIC for your organization and your VAT certificate uploaded onto the portal. So now we'll take a few minutes to take any specific queries you may have about the PIC process. Okay, thank you. Now we will resume the presentation. And so before we continue, we'd like to run a quick poll to see how many of your organizations are ready to start an application. By this I mean, do you have a PIC?
Okay, so as Daniel said, for the second question of the webinar, does your organization have a PIC? Simple response, either yes or no. So I'll launch this for you now. Here we go once again. Does your organization have a PIC? Either yes or no. Okay, I believe everybody's responded, so I will share those results with you now. Here we go. So 75% of you have responded with yes, and 25% of you have responded with no. So once again, the links within the chat box, feel free to copy and paste those for future reference. And once again, if you do need any further support during the process, you can contact us here at the National Agency. Okay, I'll hand you back now to Daniela.
Thank you, Stephen. We will now continue with the application form and what's new in the 2018 call. Changes have been made to the application form to reflect the updates in the 2018 program guide, but the e-form is still in PDF format and the application questions have not changed from the 2017 application form. Please note that if you submitted a successful application last year, you're not guaranteed to be successful in 2018, and you should not complete the 2018 application form with the exact same information as last year. You should review and update your application to take into account any feedback provided from your last application, information about new procedures in place to manage your project, and any new information on the need for the project with updated qualitative data where applicable. The application process is very competitive, and the quality of applications rises each year. So just because your application was successful last year does not mean it will be successful again in 2018. So before I show you the changes, I would like to point out that Adobe Reader and Acrobat Reader DC are the only accepted readers for you to open the form in. If you happen to use another reader such as Foxit or Adobe Acrobat X Pro, you will not be able to use the electronic form and may even corrupt it. And the message starting with unable to read form, do not save and exit the program as it may cause data corruption or loss will show. The latest version 15.20 of Acrobat Reader DC is compatible with the eForm, and so is version 15.9 and 15.7 or earlier versions. However, please note that if you have downloaded Adobe Acrobat Reader DC version 2015-008 or 15.8, the eForm will not work properly, so you should not use version 15.8 of Adobe Acrobat Reader DC. We are moving on to funding section J, budget. If we take the budget section in the adult education application form, changes have been made in line with the changes within the 2018 program guide. I'm going to go through the main changes now. Where travel is concerned, under the travel budget heading, the funding for distances of 8,000 kilometers or more has been increased from a unit cost of €1,300 to €1,500. Under the heading Exceptional Costs, last year beneficiaries were able to request funding under the budget heading Top-up for expensive domestic travel. Also, under Exceptional Costs, beneficiaries could claim for travel costs of participants from/to outermost regions and overseas countries and territories. These have now been merged and placed under the exceptional cost budget as expensive travel costs of participants. Also, you can claim up to a maximum of 80% of the total eligible costs. However, you will need to justify that the standard funding rules based on the contribution to unit costs per travel distance band do not cover at least 70% of the travel costs of participants for this to be an eligible cost. Justification must be provided within the application form. There is room for you to provide the justification at the end of the budget section in the form. You should bear in mind that assessors can reduce the amount of exceptional costs requested if the request is considered too large or a clear justification has not been provided. You must therefore provide detailed justifications for any request for exceptional costs. You should provide a breakdown of the exceptional costs requested as much as possible. Where individual support is concerned, there have been changes to the unit costs per country, which are now set into 3 groups instead of 4. So there are only 3 different unit costs. Please see page 74 of the 2018 program guide for more details. Does anyone have any questions on the application form and the new sections, features and rules as outlined in the webinar, or they may have noticed from the 2018 Erasmus Plus program guide? We'll take a minute now to have your questions. Thank you. We'll resume with the presentation now. Now I'd like to cover some key points and possible questions regarding section H.1 of the application, which asks you to break down your mobility activities. Here I'll be covering potential questions and problematic areas. To start with, if you intend to apply as a national consortium, you will need to add at least 2 consortium members to your application form for your application to be eligible. There must be a minimum of 3 organizations within a national consortium, which includes you as the applicant organization and 2 other UK organizations. Please also ensure that your consortium partners are eligible to participate in the Erasmus Plus program. Guidance on this is provided within the Adult Education Guide for applicants, available on our website. For example, sole traders and organizations that are not incorporated are not eligible to participate. If one of your consortium organizations is ineligible, resulting in only 2 eligible consortium members, this will make your application ineligible and the UK National Agency will not be able to fund your project. Secondly, although as Key Action 1 Adult Education Mobility projects, you are not obliged to identify a receiving organization at the application stage, you are strongly recommended to identify your partners and include them within your application. By doing this, you will strengthen the quality of your application. Identifying your partners within the application provides an opportunity for you to demonstrate how your partner's knowledge and expertise will meet the objectives and potentially add value to the activities of your project. If you do not input the receiving organizations in your application form, you should indicate within the application the country and city/town where mobilities will take place. If your application is successful, the national agency will request your receiving partner's details at a later date. UK consortium partners, on the other hand, must be identified in the application. Here I'll be covering potential questions and problematic areas. To start with, I'd like to clarify the distance band. After inputting your countries of origin and destination, you're asked to select the appropriate distance band. You have to use the European Commission's distance calculator in order to select the correct option. Be aware that the distance band should cover the entire journey, from the UK point of origin to the specific venue of activity. Please also note that the distance is meant as the distance for a one-way journey, but the travel unit costs have been calculated to cover the return journey. And secondly, you have the option to add flows within one activity table and also the option to add activities. So which one should you use for what? If you have multiple flows to either a different destination or for a different duration, but for the same activity type, the flow should be added under the same activity number using the plus and minus buttons. As you can see in the screenshot above, 2 flows have been input because the destinations, durations, and the number of participants on the 2 flows are different. On the other hand, if you are applying for more than one type of activity within the same application, for example, you want to send some of your adult staff on a job shadowing mobility and some other stuff on a structured course, you should click the Add Activity button, then enter the relevant information as explained above. Finally, you will need to ensure that the country of origin is always the United Kingdom and that the country of destination is eligible for this action type. For further details regarding eligible participating countries for Key Action 1, please see the program guide. We would also like to specifically show you this part of the application form because there is room for error which could greatly affect the budget. In section H1, in our examples on the previous slide, we input 2 flows of mobilities calculating to 15 participants in total under structured courses / training events. So under course fees, the number of participants will automatically populate as 15 participants, and the duration section will be left blank for you to complete. As we have 2 flows of mobilities of 2 different durations, we need to amend both columns that are in pink. As you can see in the screenshot, the numbers in the blue box will have to be amended to reflect the number of participants per flow. We had 10 participants going to Finland, and 5 going to Malta in section H1. And the durations input for these 2 flows are shown in the red box. Please note that the duration in days does not include travel days. This will also be demonstrated in the Key Action 1 Adult Education pre-recorded webinar. We will now take a minute to have your questions on section H1 and J4. Let's move on to the budget section. I'd like to cover some basic information on the budget, which you can request under Key Action 1, Adult Education Mobility. We'll go through the key points. We thought we would cover some general principles here and then open the floor to questions you may have. So the grant is a contribution to the costs of delivering the project, and the principle of co-financing applies. This means that the grant awarded may not cover all the costs of implementing the project, but is intended as a financial incentive to carry out projects that might otherwise not be feasible. There is no upper or lower limit on the number of participants that you can involve or on the funding that you can apply for, but you must demonstrate your capacity to run the project. Funding is calculated on a per participant basis, on the basis of set unit costs for certain elements or real costs in other cases. There are unit costs contributions and actual costs contributions. With unit costs, the funding is automatically calculated depending on the unit. This can be the number of participants for a certain duration or a set cost per distance traveled, for example. Budget headings using unit costs are travel, organizational support, individual support, and course fees under adult education where applicable. Funding for actual costs is obviously based on the real cost of the item or service, but only a certain percentage of the costs will be covered. Budget headings using actual costs are special needs support, up to 100%, and exceptional costs. For exceptional costs, the percentage of the actual total cost that will be funded via the Erasmus Plus budget varies depending on the type of exceptional cost. For exact percentages and more information, please see the program guide. It is important to note that any request for financial support to cover special needs support and exceptional costs must be clearly explained in the application form. The assessor will not assume anything in relation to these costs and can recommend cutting them from the budget unless adequately justified. So are there any questions on the budget? Are there any other questions at this point? I will now hand over to Amy, who will go through certain common questions.
Hello, thanks for listening to us today. So a couple of common questions which we do receive are, what is the best way to describe project participants and profiles? This is in section F. You should make sure in this section that you explain the potential participants and in the context of the proposed projects. For adult education staff, for example, what are their learning needs or gaps in knowledge, and how and what would they gain from the project? Another question which we commonly receive is, what do we include under dissemination? An efficient dissemination plan will include measurable and realistic objectives, i.e. what do you want to disseminate and to whom? A timetable. Dissemination shouldn't only take place at the end of the project, but throughout the project life cycle. Resources planning, so who will be responsible and what kind of tools do you have available? And also, finally, the involvement of target groups or your participants where possible. Thirdly, another question we commonly receive are there any requirements for a 2-year project? And the answer to that is no, there are no specific requirements to apply for a 2-year project. And another common question is, how many applications can I submit? According to the Programme Guide, an adult education organisation or its subsidiary or branch or a national mobility consortium can only apply once per selection round. However, an adult education organisation may be part of or coordinate several different national mobility consortia applying at the same time. If you're wondering what partner countries are eligible, only programme countries are eligible under this key action. The list of programme countries can be found on page 21 of the programme guides, and where you can just see the list of countries that are eligible there. So thanks for listening to us. If you do have any more questions, we'll be available to take them now.
So final point, the final poll of this session, I will hand over to Stephen to conduct the final poll.
Okay, thank you, Daniela. Okay, so the final poll of the webinar is as follows. Is your organisation ready to submit an application? So it's once again, it's a simple yes or no. If you do have any extra questions there that would obviously change that question from a no to a yes, then you can put them into the questions box. But I will launch the final poll for today. Here we go. So is your organisation ready to submit an application? So again, it's a simple answer, either yes or no. Okay, I believe one more vote is pending, so I'll stay on for a few more seconds. Okay, I'll now close the poll and share the results. And here we go, we have a split audience. So it's 50-50 between yes and no. Is your organisation ready to submit an application? So I'll hand over to Daniela now for the final part of the webinar, which covers further guidance. Once again, I'll be sharing lots of useful links and information within the chat box as well. So once again, feel free to copy and paste for your own reference from here on in.
Thank you, Stephen. Oh. All right, to conclude, I'd like to point out the further support that is available. Detailed guides for applicants on how to fill out and submit the application form is available on our Erasmus Plus website on the Key Action 1 Adult Education Staff Mobility page. As discussed, you can listen and watch our recorded application support webinar, which will be made available on our website shortly. If you haven't done so already, please sign up to our newsletter, as this provides all the most up-to-date information about the call and the Erasmus Plus program. On our website, you can also find other important information and key documents to support you with completing your application. We also have a helpline where our team is available to answer your questions about the Key Action 1 application. Thank you for your attention. We'll be around for a couple more minutes to answer any final questions, and if there are any more that come up, please contact us via the erasmusplus@ecoris.com email address or the number on this screen. As said, our team is also available every day from Monday to Friday to answer any queries you may have via the erasmusplus@ecoris.com inbox or our helpline. You can see the number on the slide, and you can find it in your handout as well. Do also keep an eye on the Erasmus Plus website for news and further guidance. We hope you found the session useful today, and we wish you luck with your future applications.